So anything that's entered into the chat box will be recorded. Any audio, if you're speaking out loud, that will also be recorded. So if you're not comfortable with that, then you're more than welcome to send us questions through the form down at the bottom of the screen, or you can email Kevin or I directly as well after the session. Otherwise, feel free to type in your questions throughout the session in the chat box, and we'll stop at regular intervals to answer those questions. So yeah, welcome to Blackboard Beyond the Basics. This is a 3-week sort of course. I'll take you through the specifics about the course, and then we can answer any questions that you might have. So there will be 3 sessions, today, next Wednesday, and then the following Wednesday, all from 10 till 12. We expanded out the time that we did these sessions. Last semester we only did an hour and a half, and we always ran out of time. So we just wanted to make sure that we gave people enough time. And also, if you could just mute yourself if you're not asking a question out loud, that would be great, and that'll help with the sound throughout the session. So each session will include live demonstrations. So Kevin and I will go through and show you some tools in Blackboard Live, and then also a Q&A. And there won't be any deliverables for this session at all. We think that the development you guys are doing on your courses is more than enough of a deliverable. So you don't have to hand anything in. And also, all of the sessions will be recorded, and the recordings will be sent out to everybody, probably usually the next day or the couple days afterwards, depending on how long it takes the recording to load. And the recording will be loaded to Microsoft Stream, so that closed captioning will be available. So session 1 today, we're going to be talking about content. So organizing content in your Blackboard course, using your course menu to its full extent, and adding multimedia, and also creating learning modules. Learning modules are a really great way to organize your lessons in Blackboard. And then also talking about wikis and how useful they can be, and we'll touch on student preview. Next week, we'll get into assessments. So tests, assignments, rubrics, grade center, all of the nitty-gritty on that. And then the last session will be about communication with your students. So using the discussion board, journals and blogs, Blackboard Collaborate Ultra. So we're going to demonstrate using Collaborate Ultra, but we'll also show you the back end and some best practices, as well as Big Blue Button, and quickly we'll be talking about. So before we get started, we thought we would jump into a little bit of an icebreaker activity. So you can participate in this either on your phone or in another tab on your browser or in another window on your browser. And so if we can all just visit menti.com, and I'm going to stop sharing my file with you, and I'm going to jump over and share my screen with you. So you should be seeing Menti, our Menti screen right now. So either on your phone or another browser, if you go to menti.com, and then you can punch in this code. So it's 4444326. And when you punch in the code, you should see the text that I have on the screen show up on your phone or your browser window. And Kevin, I can't see anything in the Collaborate window, so let me know if people are having issues, you need me to slow down or stop or pause or anything like that. So once everybody is there, we'll jump into our first question. And really, it's just, how's everyone feeling today? So we're heading into our 3rd semester teaching fully online. It's still a weird time in our world right now. I just read yesterday that the city I live in, we're at 0 active cases, which is very exciting. But still, it's definitely different having to carry a mask with you everywhere now. So are you feeling relaxed, excited, tired, nervous, hungry, overwhelmed? I'm always hungry, so I'll put that in. And I'm always nervous too, so I'll put that in too. And submit that. A lot of people feeling overwhelmed, for sure. I can just imagine this time of year, especially, we've only got a couple more weeks to go before classes start, and a lot of pressure on us right now to, to get those courses up and everything ready and the experience to be good. Nobody's feeling relaxed. Okay, so hopefully the sessions that we're going to run you through, hopefully this will bring a little bit more relaxation into your course planning. Some people are excited, some people are tired. I get it, for sure. Now, let's have a little tiny quiz about Blackboard. So you might be a pro at Blackboard, or you might just be starting with Blackboard. So let's have a guess of which of these is possible in Blackboard. Can you use it to communicate with students? Can you calculate a student's progress? Can you automatically grade a multiple choice quiz? Can you automatically grade an essay question on a quiz? Can you create an online assignment? Can you submit your final grades? Okay. So yeah, you can definitely communicate with students. You can definitely calculate a student's progress, automatically grade a multiple choice quiz. Technically, you can't automatically grade an essay question on a quiz. It doesn't have sort of an algorithm that will go through and look for keywords and automatically grade it. You'll still have to go in and manually grade an essay question or a short answer question. What you can do is provide a model answer, though. So you can input a model answer so that when you go through and grade, you can compare it to whatever your model answer was. So that's a useful feature. Definitely create an online assignment. Now, submitting your final grades, that's actually done through different software. That's done through the faculty center that we have. So in terms of like sending those final grades into the official, submission spot, you can't do that through Blackboard, but you can definitely track them. Okay. So we will get out of that and we will hop right into the demos. Before we get started, are there any questions or any special requests? You can pop those into the chat box. I'll just hop back over to the chat box to see if there's anything. And if you've never experienced this Drost effect that's happening right now, I think it's called Drost effect, this is when I'm actually sharing my screen with you and I'm on the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra screen. So if you ever see this kind of mirroring effect, this is a very popular thing to do in art and things like that. But this is something that will happen if you're on the screen, on the Blackboard Collaborate Ultra screen that you're actually sharing. So this won't happen if I've got two separate windows and I have Collaborate Ultra in one window and I'm sharing with another window. Okay, so Jody says, questions in the chat box are being recorded. Do you mean you will verbalize the question for recording? That's right. So the questions will appear in the recording. You'll see the actual typed out questions in the recording. So if you do want to ask it privately, no problem. Just email either Kevin or I, or fill out that form, and I can show that the link in again. Okay, so we'll hop into our demo of organizing your content. So two things I wanted to show you today is talking about organizing your course menu and then also organizing the content in those course menus. So we can start with the course menu. I think that's sort of a logical place to start. Now we always get these kind of default areas, and they're not that useful, I think, for students, like course documents. What is course documents really? It's not very meaningful. And we have, assignments, but we might also have different areas we want to add in, like quizzes and things like that too. So we can definitely organize this to fit whatever our course is going to look like. So announcements, that's usually the landing page for the course, and that's always here. So if you go into create an announcement, I just wanted to show you one feature here. You can do your welcome announcement here and then put in all the information you need to for the welcome, when you're meeting, what the course is going to be like, things like that. I'll just submit that. And you can see this gray area here that says new announcements appear below this line. So if you have an announcement that you want to pin for the entire semester and you always want it to appear at the top, note that you can drag that up above that gray line and that will pin it there for the semester. So if you have, say, a course code of conduct, or if you have a course like, something that is always relevant to them every week and you want to pin it at the top, maybe your office hours or something like that, you can do that just by dragging it. And then if you want to unpin it, you can drag it back down. Otherwise, the announcements will just appear in chronological order down at the bottom. So announcements are your kind of landing page for the course. We've got course information. So this could be your course outline, it could be your addendum and things like that. Course documents, I don't think is very meaningful. So depending on what your course is formatted like, let's say you have weekly modules that you want them to go through. You can rename this link to something more meaningful. So we could do weekly modules. And then they know, okay, every week I have to complete a module, so I'm going to go in through this link. Your assignments are here, but maybe you also have weekly quizzes that you want them to do, or you have a bi-weekly quiz or something like that. You can add to this menu different things. And you can do that all by clicking on the little plus symbol and then choosing what types of things you would like to add. So today we'll focus on adding a content area and then talking about tool, web, and course link, as well as subheaders and dividers. So from this point, I could add in a content area here, and I could say, weekly quizzes, make it available to users, and say submit. So it adds it down at the bottom, and I can just click and drag that up so that it's, with my other weekly content there. Let's say I wanted to go in and add a link to Blackboard Collaborate Ultra because we're having we meet, let's say, once a month. We have a synchronous class or something like that. I could click on Tool Link, and this can link to any number of tools within this course. Things like Collaborate Ultra, Discussion Board, if you're doing journals. If you want to link to something else that's used commonly in your course, you can do that. So I could just say the Collaborate Ultra tool, and then the name I want to give it is our monthly meetings, let's say. And then make it available to users. And again, it just pops it down at the bottom, and then I can move it up. Now, if I don't want assignments to be here, if I'm going to include the assignments in the weekly modules, I could do that, or I could just leave assignments here. Let's say I wanted to link to a specific discussion board that's going to be ongoing throughout the semester. Well, there's another feature here called a course link. And course link's a little bit different than the tool link. So you can link to specific things within tools. So if I click on Browse, and then I go over, it gives me sort of a skeleton of the whole course. So now I can scroll down and I can see, okay, so my discussion boards are there. I don't have to link to the entire discussion board tool. I can link to a discussion board within that tool. So I went in previously and I added a course Q&A discussion board. And this is just an open discussion board that will be ongoing throughout the semester. So if anyone ever has questions, they can post it there. So I want to add that to the menu and I say submit. And, I can move that up, I can move it down, I can put it wherever I'd like to. And now that I'm starting to get a lot more links in here, I might want to add a bit of structure to this menu. So the idea behind universal design for learning principles are removing barriers, making things obvious when they don't need to be complicated. So navigating your course in Blackboard probably shouldn't be complicated. The content can be, complicated if that's the nature of it, but finding the content shouldn't be complicated. So let's add a bit of structure and a little bit of delineation between the items. So I can come here and I can start to add in subheaders and dividers. So I can add in a subheader and say, course materials or whatever makes sense to you. Course materials, it makes it a little bit bold. So if I scroll up here, You can see it's a little bit bold. It's not the easiest to see on my computer. I can also add in a divider though, and this is just a little line. It gives me a little line, so I can go in and add a divider here. Maybe I'll add a divider up here. So now I've got course materials, I've got the course Q&A, the My Grades, information about me so they can contact me. I've got the tools link. So if they ever want to access any of the tools in the background, they can do this. If you ever want to hide any of these links, you can just click on and click hide link. If you want to really limit what they're seeing in here so that it's not confusing for them, then you can just hide all of the links that you don't normally use. And then, so I've got all the sort of logistical information about the course down here, but the real meat of the course is in the middle there. So just making it sort of obvious for students. And also, if there's a website that you use on a regular basis, and maybe there's a tool that you use on a regular basis that you want them to have a direct link to, and it's not within Blackboard. Let's say, for example, this is a free project management resources site that I know a lot of faculty use. It's very useful. They can go in and get to all these pieces here. I can take this link up here, so I can just click copy, and I can come back to my menu and I can say add a web link. And this is a link right out to anywhere on the web. So if I wanted to say, project management resources, and then I can add in the link here, just paste that link in and say available to users. Now I have a direct link to an external site here. So when I click on that, it opens up to that website right in the frame there. So I've got a variety of things going on here. I've got, your typical course information. I've changed the name to weekly modules. I've added in a content area. And just a note that when you add in a content area, that's always when you get this build content, assessments, tools, and partner content toolbar here. So content area refers to this type of thing here. A tool link, that's actually going directly into a tool. So this goes right into the discussion board. You don't get the ability to add content in here other than, threads and discussion posts. So any questions about that before we move on to actually organizing content within a content area? I'll go back and do this freaky mirroring effect. How to share a screen and collaborate. Yeah, absolutely. You should be able to see on your right-hand side, I am pulling up the toolbar here. So this is the share toolbar. So you can see here, I can share a variety of things. I can share a whiteboard. I could share an application and screen. So that's what you're seeing right now. What would normally happen is I'd click on this and then a little pop-up box would happen and it would ask me what I want to share. Do I want to share my entire screen, one specific window, or a specific app? So like Word or Excel or something like that. And I can do that from the share application screen. And then there's also share files too. So if I wanted to go in and upload a PowerPoint or a PDF or things like that, then I could do that here. And you can also do polling and breakout groups. We'll go through Collaborate Ultra in detail in the final week of this session. So we'll go through every single one of these and show you how they work. I tried to add VoiceThread in Tools and was not able to find it. I believe, and Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. Are we in Learn? Yes, we are. I believe that VoiceThread is, you have to add that through a content area. So let's just verify that. So if I go to Tool Link, let's see, VoiceThread's not there because I believe it's sort of connected to specific content, so you can't add the tool in alone. What you could add is the link to VoiceThread in general, which is just an external site, and sometimes I find that faculty have said they'd had to go through the main site to actually get the VoiceThread done instead of this embedded tool here. But to do VoiceThread, if you go to build content and add the VoiceThread in here, let's see, I'll just do a test VoiceThread. And, you know, enable evaluation, all that good stuff here, and add that in. I'm just seeing if we can add this as a course link. I don't know if you can, but let's give it a whirl. So if I go in and I say course link now, does it give me the option to link to that specific thing? Yes, it does. So right here, the VoiceThread, so it looks like it's allowing me to link right to that specific assignment. So now I can go in and launch the VoiceThread like I normally would, but I'd have to add it in first and then use the add course link. Does that help? Good. Okay, great. Okay, so we'll move on to organizing content within the course here. So back into our course, I'm going to go into weekly modules. I'll just work from this particular area to talk about organizing content. And they're in Blackboard. The really great thing and the really confusing thing is there's 6 different ways to add the same thing. So I'll show you a couple different ways to add content in, and then you just sort of choose whatever is most appropriate for whatever you want to add. So under build content, you can add item, you can add a direct file, you can add audio, just an image, a video, or a web link. So these are sort of the standard 6 types of things that you can add in. Item, I think, is really useful. So I'll show you, give you a tour of the item feature and all the stuff you can do here. So I remember working with a faculty years ago, and every week she had lecture slides and then 2 readings. It was very consistent. Every week there was only those 3 items. And so what we did for her course is we used item for every single week. So what we did is we went in and we did, you know, week 1. Just say, make up something here. And this would probably, I guess, be introduction if it's business writing. What else you might also want to do here is add in the date too, so that they know what week this is. So you could say September 1st, or you know, you don't have to put in week 1 if you don't want to. It just depends on what makes the most sense for your students. So you could say September 1st, week 1, introduction to business writing. You can add things directly into this text box, and this text box is going to appear throughout Blackboard. So when you add in quiz questions, when you add in assignments, you're going to get this same text box. If you don't see all 3 lines here, you might have to toggle using these little arrows at the side here. I remember speaking to a faculty who'd been teaching for a couple of years, and he hadn't realized you could do that. And that just, you know, changes your life when you know all this other stuff is available. So from here, you can just type in and you can put in some information if you'd like to. So you could say, you know, learning outcome 1 and learning outcome 2, whatever it is you like to put in. You can put direct links right into here as well. So if I go in here and I want to link to that page that we had linked to before, the project management resources, I could come here and I could click on this chain link here, and I could add in the link. I would just paste in that link that I had saved from the web page. I always set this to open in a new window. I know we have issues with it opening in the same window, so this is something that I typically do, and then insert, and then that makes it a hyperlink. So you can type in text here. You can also attach items here too. So if you wanted to attach an item right into the text box, you could come here and you could find an item to attach. Let me just find a random thing here and attach it. My computer's a little slow this morning, I wonder. There we go. Oop. Hopping around. So you can see I can attach something right in there. So variety of ways to do things. Like I said, if we keep scrolling down, you can see that I've got also ways to attach files down here. So again, I could go here and I could attach an item. I'll attach the same thing so you can see what it looks like and how different it is. So now it gives me the file name down here, and I can change the link title. So let's say I wanted to change this to, you know, reading 1 or something like that. Sure, I'll put that there. So you can add content in a bunch of different ways. You can type it in, you can do a hyperlink to a website, you can attach a file right into the text box, or you can attach the file, down here. And I can keep attaching files down here, which is kind of cool. So I could keep going in and I could say, you know, these are your lecture slides. And so students will see the link title, they won't see the file name, which I think is really useful. So they're not seeing all this sort of like kind of mashup of titles over here. They're seeing what you want them to see. And I'll show you what it looks like when you actually upload it. All the text box material, it ends up down here. The attached files that we attach separately down a little bit below, that appears at the top. So when you're thinking about how to mock this up, if you're thinking, okay, I think I'd rather do the attached files so that they appear at the top and then maybe a couple of learning outcomes, or maybe I just want to use the text box for everything, and then I can set it out to look exactly the way I want it to. So for that particular teacher, I did one of these items for every week. So week 1 had an item, week 2 was an item. That doesn't work for everybody though. Sometimes you have a ton of content in every week that you're uploading into Blackboard. So at that point, you might want to use something like a folder to start to organize that. So if we go over to content folder, and then for this, I might say September 1st, introduction to business writing. I'm just getting back from vacation. I still don't remember how to type. Okay, and this might be our folder for this week. So I can put the learning outcomes here. So that it's front and center. And I can say submit. So now this is our folder. The learning outcomes are right here. And to get to the content, students will actually have to click on this link. So when they click on that, this is where all the content will be. So this is where I can add in a bunch of different stuff within this folder. And it can be sequential. So it could be step 1, step 2, step 3 if you wanted it to be. Kevin's going to show you a learning module, how to do that in a minute, and that's super useful for managing a lot of content. But let's say I had just a couple of items here that I wanted to add in. I could maybe add in a direct web link, and I could say, I could link to those project management resources. And add in, and I could say, you know, please read through the initiate resources, something like that. And there we go. So this will appear as a direct link now, and you get an icon that has a little link symbol there, and students can click on that and it'll take them to the project management resources. I could also add in an item if I wanted to, and I could add in multimedia. I could upload a file directly in here. So if I just want to upload a file and I don't need to add any other information about it, I could do that. I could say lecture slides, and then I could browse my computer and go find that one file and upload it directly into here. So you'll get another symbol, which is like a page symbol. And I could say, well, I want the lecture slides to go first, the PM resources to go next. And let's say I want to add in a video now. So I could add in a YouTube video, I think would be appropriate here. To do that, I would add in first an item, and then we can add in the YouTube video a couple different ways. We could say, you know, business writing video. And in the text box editor here, you've got a couple of different options. You can embed a video directly in here if you want to. And this is typically from one that you have saved on your computer. Or you can go into the mashups tool here, and you can look for YouTube videos. So this will pull up a little search here, and you can say Introduction to Business Writing. And it will show up a bunch of different videos from YouTube. And then from here, all you have to do is say select, and then make a couple changes to the settings. Let me just make this a bit bigger so we can see it. One of the things I usually do change here is I say, yes, show the YouTube URL, because if there's any issues with seeing the video, then the student can go directly to YouTube and watch the video. So I'll say yes, and then I'll say submit, and then it pops up right in the item right there. So I can say submit, and there's the business writing video, which is kind of nice. I could do that in a different way too. So instead of having it from the actual mashup tool, I could add it in using the HTML and from going right directly from YouTube to here. So just let me get rid of all this gobbledygook first. Done. So this HTML code view, this is where I would paste the embed code that I would get from anywhere. So I can embed pretty much anything into the Blackboard tool as long as it meets certain standards. So this is that same video on YouTube. I can just right click on the video and say copy embed code. And you can do this with most YouTube videos. Some YouTube videos will have embedding turned off though, just note that. So I copy the embed code, it does it automatically, and then I can go back here and I can go into the HTML. Oh, sorry, get rid of that. And I can just paste in that embed code from YouTube. So you can see it's iframe code, which is a universal standard for embedding. And now it appears as this big yellow box. So if I say submit, you can see how different it looks now. So now it's sort of the video is taking up the full screen. It's kind of large. I could go in and I could edit that. So if I felt brave enough, I could go into that HTML again. And you can see the sizes are all just right here. So you can kind of, shrink that down quite a bit if you wanted to. Make it like 500 by 400. And that makes it a little bit smaller. One word of warning when you're embedding things is that sometimes students' browser settings will not show embedded content. So one of the things I always do is that if I'm embedding from anywhere, so even YouTube, I'll go in and I'll also copy the URL for the video. And then I'll go to the video and I'll say, if you can't view the video below, please view it here. And then I will put the direct link in here. So you can see why the mashup tool might work better. It'd be one less extra step here, because here I actually have to go in and do this manually now, whereas the mashup tool did that for me. And then submit. So we've got our video there. You can also embed other stuff too. So if we go back into item is that really kind of useful thing where it allows you to put lots of different content in. You can embed things from, Microsoft Stream if you wanted to. If you have something on Microsoft Stream, you just go to the More Actions, Share, and then you can go to the Embed. And there's that iframe code, similar to what we got from YouTube. This is the iframe code. One word of warning for Microsoft Stream is that if your students have never logged into Microsoft Stream, so Microsoft Stream is locked down to Seneca logins. If they've never logged in, they won't be able to see the embedded content. So it's very important that you add the direct link as well. So this share URL, this guy here, so that they can link directly to this video to be able to log in for the first time. Once they're logged in, they'll be able to see embedded videos after that. But because it's a secure site, there's that one little hiccup. If you create external content, so this is Adobe Spark, and this is another workshop that we do through Teaching and Learning, and I've created an online module using Adobe Spark page in here. I can go to the share page, publish and share link, and this will pop up a box that will give me embed code. So this is a different standard. It uses a script instead of an iframe code, but that should still work. So if we, copy that, I can go over again into that HTML, paste in that script that it gave me, and I can say, you know, give it a title, and then I can submit. So now, scrolling down, you can see that the online module is right there. Other content you might be interested in developing, this is H5P, another tool that we use quite commonly in teaching and learning, also has an embed here. They use iframe code, so that's great. One of the words of warning for H5P is that when you click in it, make sure you don't highlight it like that and then copy it, because you'll only get part of the code. Just click in the box 3 times and that will give you the full code. So if I say copy that, I go back, add in another item, and this might be a different module that they're doing, HTML, and paste, and then submit. Again, I would do the direct links to all of these as well, but I won't take the time to do it right now. But you can see the module right now, it's embedded right in the Blackboard page, and they can go through and type in and complete the module. Again, here they could just click on the read more, and this would launch the module so that they could go through and do the module. So the nice thing about folder is that it contains all this stuff within that specific week. So you're not having this all in one long scrolling page. Under weekly modules, this is under the specific folder. So it makes it a little bit cleaner for the students. And even if you add, step 1, step 2, step 3, then they know for sure they're going through it. They need to do this first, then this first, then that first, and that first. Any questions? That was a lot of content. First, I'm just going to hop over to the sharing box here.
Hi, Jen. There was a question earlier from Esther who wanted to know about copying or moving items. If you have an existing item and you want to then create folders and move things in between folders, how do you do that?
Yeah, for sure. So let's say I'm going to go back to weekly modules, and I'll put in another folder. I'll put in, let's say, week 1. So I'll call this September 8th, week 2. So we have another folder. We've got our September 1st and September 8th. Now let's say in here, I was like, oh, those project management resources, those are for week 2. They're not for week 1. I could click on the little drop-down arrow beside the resource and just say move. This then brings me to, okay, where do you want to move it to? If I had multiple courses, I could move it between courses. But if I want it within the same course, I could say, we'll open up the folder. I'm just going to expand this guy out. And I could say week 2 instead of week 1, and then submit. So now it disappears from week 1, and now it goes into week 2. So if you have something in another course that you want to move into here, that's also on the regular Blackboard site, you can do that too. Any other questions, Kevin?
A couple of questions. One's from Sam about wanting to know how to share a couple of files in at once with Collaborate. And I just posted to Sam that we'll cover that in session 3 of our series, so we can hold off on that for later. Sam, if you need that right away, just email me and I'll show you how. And there's Kim has a request for Microsoft Stream. She said it sounds amazing. Are there other workshops on that coming up?
Yeah, so I created some materials on Microsoft Stream, and I'm happy to email those out with this recording from today. And I'm just going to make a note for myself. I've created sort of how-tos on that, because there are, of course, with every technology, it's not always perfect, right? So we do have a couple of workarounds. So I can email out those instructions. But just for a brief look, Stream is something that's available to us through all of our Microsoft Outlook stuff that we have. So to get to Stream, I'm going to pull up my email here. Hopefully there's nothing private that's going to pop up. But no, we're good. So to get to Stream, this little sort of honeycomb in the upper left-hand corner of your email is the quickest way to get to it. Now, it shows up in my list of apps already because I use it so much, but if you don't see it here, you just have to click on All Apps and then scroll down to Stream. So Stream is right here. You can also get to Teams. So another tool that I use all the time is Forms. If you ever need to do a survey or a poll or anything and you want it to be more like an actual form, you can use that. So I use that all the time. But Stream is right here. And so when you click on Stream, it'll take you to sort of the main page of Stream. And then you can see under my content, these are all the videos that I've uploaded here. The beautiful thing about Stream is that it automatically captions your videos for you. So if I go into one of our old workshops we did last semester, a couple semesters ago, so something went wrong and we're not sure why. So that's not a good example. Let's see if it's struggling today. There we go. So there is the transcript. This is an automatic generated transcript, so it might not be perfect, but I could go in here and I could edit this transcript as well and make changes if I need to. But this is an automatic thing. So when I come here to upload video, and if I were to browse for a random video here, I'll just find one here. I won't actually upload it. I'll go in and delete it. So you upload a video here and you can give it a name and all that kind of stuff. The permissions, automatically it's set for everyone in your company to view this video. It means everybody at Seneca. So you can deselect that and then add in just specific people here. So don't get too excited about students because there's not an automatic way to add in a group of students here. And this is something I've been discussing with ITS, trying to find a solution for this. And they keep telling me it's possible and I keep telling them it's not possible. So hopefully that discussion will continue and we can figure out a way to connect that with registration. Otherwise, you can add in specific people. You can create groups for your classes. It's all manual though, so just note that there's no automatic way to do it. And then you can also create channels. So if you have a specific topic you teach and you want to generate a bunch of videos on it, you could create a channel for yourself like that. And then down under options, you've got auto-generate captions. If it's not auto-generating captions, you might just need to go in and choose the language of the video. So you might just need to say this is English or French or whatever it is you've recorded it in. And then it should auto-generate captions. So that other video, if something went wrong, it might be that I didn't select the language for it. And then the actual videos themselves, yeah, you can go in and you can, I'll just pull this guy up. You can go in and you can, where is it here? Oh, sorry, you can share. So that's where you get the sharing. So you can do a direct link, you can do the embed code. You can also go in and trim a video. So I recorded a meeting yesterday that I had. It was an hour-and-a-half meeting, and then I met with somebody else for a half an hour afterwards, and I forgot to turn off recording. So I just went in and I trimmed the video for the actual meeting before I shared it with the committee. So that's kind of useful too. But yeah, Stream is definitely a nice little tool, but it's just that sometimes you'll get an error message that says, you're not logged in, and then you have to go back, go through your email, go to Stream, log in, and then students should be able to see that embedded content. But if you have that direct link, that saves you from a host of headaches. Any other questions, Kevin?
I think we're good. If anybody does have questions, let's pause for a second. Go ahead, fire away. You can actually, if you want to take over the microphone as well, you can do that and ask your question, or type in the chat.
I'm Sam. The browser, whether it's Firefox or Chrome, we can use for Blackboard, and Kevin says we can use either of them. But mainly for plugins. See, some plugins, they don't work in Firefox. Some plugins won't work in Chrome. Which one you prefer?
Well, and that's a really good question. And honestly, it depends on what computer I'm on. So I have two laptops. My one laptop gives me so many issues with Chrome. I always have to constantly clear my browser history, constantly clear my cache in order to get to my email, to get to Blackboard, to get to anything that has that single sign-on attached to it. And so I ditched that computer for work stuff, and I moved over to a different computer because the Chrome on this one, it's fine. I don't run into those issues. So I often find myself hopping between Chrome and Firefox. If it doesn't work in one browser, I'll hop over the other. Sometimes I'll restart my computer and that will fix it. But yeah, usually it's, if it doesn't work here, I hop over to the other browser. If it doesn't work there, I restart my computer and then see where that gets me. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, it's really browser dependent. I mean, one of the things is have many browsers available to you, and then you can swap back and forth between them to see which one works best for you. I know, like if you're doing things like screencasting, some screencasting stuff only works in Chrome if it's browser-based rather than application. And another thing, actually thinking about Blackboard Collaborate Ultra, if you're sharing your screen, like Jen is doing now, if you want the cursor to show, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's best if you start sharing your application in Chrome and then demo through Firefox. Because sometimes if you start in Firefox, the cursor doesn't show when you're sharing. It's an oddity. I'm not sure why. Maybe they fixed it now, but just a suggestion there. And it doesn't happen all the time.
Can you see my cursor?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Okay.
Are you in Firefox? Did you start in Firefox?
I started in Chrome.
Yeah, that's the best way.
And I stayed in Chrome. Yeah.
Good.
How about the plugin for Flash? Flash, I don't know the support for Flash. Some of my content is not showing up in Blackboard because of the Flash plugin.
Yeah, and what content are you showing that's Flash-based?
I create a file, put them for students to read that contains some contents. I don't know, somebody was telling me Flash is no more supported. I don't know exactly.
Kevin,
Yeah,
do you know?
Flash. Yeah, it's a good question, Sam. So if anybody has Flash content, or you've curated some Flash content from previous years, Flash support in browsers will disappear as of December 31st this year. And so it's highly recommended that you curate additional resources. Many of those folks are scrambling now to change their Flash content into HTML5 content, which is what Jen was showing you with H5P. That's moved over to that. So just be aware of that. So if you have legacy content that you use that's Flash-based, it won't be displayed in browsers as of this end of December. Of course, many of your students, if they're using iPads or phones, they wouldn't have had that capability for a while. So from universal design and learning perspective, we got to make sure that our content can be displayed in all devices, as many as possible. So give students have an option there. So please look for additional content or new content that's Flash-based.
Okay,
That's
thank
not
you.
Flash-based.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, sorry, that's not Flash-based.
Yeah.
Please edit, Jen, edit that out when the recording.
Any other questions before we move on to modules? Okay. So just two other quick little tiny things I wanted to show you what that might be useful to you is that if you are entering you want to add an image to anything, so let's say your announcement or something like that, I wanted to point out this that the sandbox, the library sandbox had curated on free image sites. So if you go down, you've got access to some collections that Seneca has purchased, but also you've got access to these free sites here. And I'll send out this link with the recording for this session so you have it. And I want to show you one of these sites, which is called Unsplash. And this is a free site, so you can go in and you can use any of these images in your presentations, in your Blackboard course. If you're creating videos, you can use those as well. And there's also some video footage available too. So if I wanted to go in and just look for some images on, say, business or something like that, I could come here and find an image. The diversity is not that great in Unsplash, so you might need to do a bit of searching to try and find something that represents our student groups. Or there's other collections too that are listed on that free image site that have a bit more diversity. But if you find an image you like, you can click Download Free, and this will download it to your computer. Technically, you don't even have to cite this, so it's not even something that they say you have to cite it. They do say if you'd like to, here's the citation for you, and I can just click on Copy to Clipboard. It copies that citation for me, and then I can go back to wherever I'd like to add this in Blackboard and say Edit, and I can add it in into an announcement or something like that. So if I just go to this image link here, Insert Image, I can click on that. I can go find that image that I just downloaded right there. It's uploading it. They're big images, so it's going to take a little bit to upload. You can see it's massive there. I can put in the image description here. So a table with multiple laptops. And then in appearance, this is where you can set the size. So you can see 6,000 by 4,000, that's a map photo. So I could come here and I could say, no, I want to make it a lot smaller. As long as this constrained proportions is clicked, it'll do the aspect ratio for you. You don't even need to think about it. You can add in a little bit of space here if you'd like to. If you're going to be aligning it with text, you can align it to the left or to the right if you'd like to do that. And then you might need a little bit of vertical space or horizontal space here just to make it sit right. Gives you a little preview over here, which is kind of cool. And then when you say Insert, it puts the image just right into your item there. And so if I had a bunch of text here, the text would all appear on the left and the picture would be on the right. And then it would just appear there. And one last thing I wanted to show you was that if you have an actual video that you would like to insert right from your computer, you don't want to use Stream, you don't want to use YouTube, you just want to put it into Blackboard, you can do that. You can add the video directly here if you'd like to. You can also add it into an item. So if we go in to add the video, I could say, this is the welcome video. I can browse my computer to find that video I'd like to insert. You can choose a couple of options down here. So do you want it to automatically start? No. Do you want it to loop? So keep playing over and over? No. I think alignment to content means you're linking another item, which I don't need to do. And then I can say submit. One word of warning for videos directly in Blackboard is short videos often work really, really well. Longer videos, they can run into issues. And also, when you upload a video directly into Blackboard, it gives the download video file here. So note that your students will be able to download that MP4. And I think there's a very complicated workaround for this that Tony Fu in Teaching and Learning was looking into, but it's something that you might not want to get into. And also it doesn't caption your video for you, so you would have to provide some sort of a transcript to go along with this video to meet those AODA requirements. So it might not be the best choice for putting a video in your course, but I know some people like that choice. Okay, so I think I'm going to throw it to Kevin now. And Kevin's going to talk about learning modules and wikis.
Great, thanks very much, Jen. And I'm going to just start here with a quick poll. I just wanted to ask, I know we've got a little bit more time this time, so we're not time crunched as we were in the previous session. So I just want to ask, do you need or want a 3-minute break? Feel free to go ahead and answer, and I'll review the responses in a second, and we'll just go with majority rules. If you obviously, if you do need a break, go ahead and take it. I just wanted to check with everybody, and I see that 9 people are still left to respond, so go ahead and enter, and I'll give you just a couple of seconds, and then we'll go with the majority as we go along. Imagine some jazz music playing in the background.
I was just playing that from my Amazon Music this morning.
All right. So I'll give you another 10 seconds for you to, all the participants, to vote on if they need a break, and then I'll reveal. So I'll reveal in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So it looks like it's we want to continue, so just keep going. All right, that's no problem. Now, of the folks that did say yes, by all means, go ahead and grab a drink, or if you need another coffee or something, you can certainly do that. And there was a question, I think, in the chat around can you preload polls in Blackboard? And sorry, Judy, at the moment you can't. You have to kind of actually do it on the fly. That would be a great new feature. Hopefully it'll come soon, but it's not there yet. Okay, so I'll stop sharing the poll and we'll continue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to talk about learning modules to start. So give me a second. And Jen, you can monitor the chat and let me know if there's any questions that pop up as folks are.
Yep, for sure.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to share an application here. Just give me a second for it to pop up with what I can share. My computer is a little chugging away this morning, so hopefully it will. I'm going to share my entire screen. It'll get there, and I'm going to move over to here. So Jen, can you let me know if you can see my Learn at Seneca and the courses list showing there?
Yep, I can see it.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to talk about learning modules, and I'm going to just go to show you an existing course from last semester, just to see how these learning modules look in a course, and then I'll come back to our section here that Jen was using and show you how you build that as an option, as an additional option to the folder and item kind of or file option that Jen was showing. Both, by the way, are perfectly legitimate. You go with what you think works best for you and your students. There's no one's better than the other. It's just whatever personal preference, your level of comfort with the tool, those types of things. All right, so I've got this course I was teaching last semester in the summertime, I think this was. And here it is, and it's got, I'll just go into student preview so you can see what it looks like from a student's perspective. So if I go up to the top here, I'm going to have student preview turned on, and you'll see, I'll give you an example. So here's that menu structure that we're using in this course. And just to point out, just to expand on what Jen was talking about earlier, what I tend to do generally is I use the top part of the menu. And Jen, can you let me know? You can see my cursor, hopefully. Is there?
Yeah,
can you see
I can see it.
Perfect. So I've got announcements, email, discussion board, and online office hours. So those are the communication tools. And then I have a subdivider. And then we've got tools around content. So getting started in the course, especially, this is a great kind of a menu item to add for online courses, as we're doing, and I'll show you that in a second. Then we've got the weekly content. I know that Jen was talking about weekly modules, whatever you want to call it, that you and your group of faculty and your programs decide upon. One of the things is if you're part of a program, you've got 5 courses of students taking a semester and every faculty uses a different menu structure, it might be a good idea to get together with the faculty and say, okay, what makes sense from a menu structure point of view? And I know that some programs have kind of a mandated structure that they like to use for their courses. So follow that, whatever your group of faculty or your chair suggests. Then I've got tests and assignments, and then below that, the third part here is the kind of the administrivia, course information, which has the outline, my information, grades, calendar, those types of things. Okay, so here's that menu structure here. So weekly content is based on a folder structure that Jen was showing you. And it's just a list of items. Getting started is a folder. And it's just showing you, I'll just point it out as we go through here. And it's listed, like the first item, number 1 is watch the welcome video for the course, those types of things. And there's a direct link to the video, and the video is popping in here as well. So remember, Jen was saying, put in, this is embedded video, but also put in the direct link, because I can see they were having some issues with this video loading. So then the second item here is to review the key course information. And then there's an item that said link to a discussion board to introduce yourself, take the online learning readiness survey, register and access, because we have these online labs and lessons that students do in this course, and then I just created a video about how to access those lessons and labs, also the direct link in there, and then some netiquette guidelines for what, how to communicate online, and what are some of the rules that we're going to follow as a class. And then I say at the end, okay, let's start week 1 learning module. So that's what I'm going to concentrate here on, is, well, how do I look at these learning modules? So this is an example of sequencing some content in a folder structure in a getting started menu item. So now I want them to start at the very bottom, once I've gone through all that stuff, this learning module. So I come up to the menu, and I've got it in this weekly content area. And I'm going to scroll down, because this was a 12-week course. So I'll go to the beginning. And what I tend to do as well is, as the modules go away, then I post the next one ahead of it, so the students always see the most recent module at the top. So I'm just going to take a look at the very first week 1 learning module. So this icon here is for learning modules. How is that different from what Jen was showing you? Well, let's take a look. I'll click on it. And what it does is it gives you this kind of table of contents structure. It itemizes or organizes the items that you're using, or whatever you're putting together, into kind of a flow, and it has one item per page, and then it automatically creates the table of contents, and it automatically creates this navigation from pages that you've put into your learning module. So here I've got the opening page, which is overview and outcomes. I click to the next page, and I've got something that says, wait, don't go on yet. Go back and make sure you've read the getting started information, and hopefully they've done that. Then after they've done that, then we get into the content, and I've started with a video and some information about what they're going to watch. So that's there. Then I've got them doing a practice activity. This was created in H5P and embedded as also the direct link. And then I've got a little quiz, okay? Test your knowledge. How are you doing? Are you getting the content, etc. And then they can navigate either through the arrow keys at the top here, or they can go through the table of contents. So let's look at the summary at the end. And this is one recommendation when you're putting together your content, is to start with outcomes at the top and end with a summary, and just say, hey, I've gone through all the content. Let me do a self-check. Have I reviewed the overview? Have I watched the video? Have I done the quiz? Have I done all that stuff? And if you have, congratulations, you're now ready to go on to the next learning module, which is our week 2 module from there. So there's a real-life example of a course that's running that has both folder-based items in it, as well as learning modules. So that's what a learning module looks like. And I'm going to go now show you, how do I create that? I know there's some beeping that says there's probably some chat questions. Jen, is there some questions I need to answer right away before we continue?
There was just a request to slow down a little bit. The clicking, okay, I think, doesn't quite match. What we're seeing doesn't match what you're, like, it's a bit slower than what you're actually clicking.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. Yes, we tend to get so excited about these things. Crazy. I will definitely try to slow down. And please let me know if you need to.
Hi, sorry, I apologize for the interruption. I just figured you're on a little bit of a break, and I wanted to introduce myself. It's Andres Quintero. I part of the moderators, and I just wanted to say hi. Sorry, Kevin, surprise.
No, that's great. I'm glad you joined us. That's awesome. I was wondering if you were able to today. I know you're super busy, but thank you so much for joining us. And Andres is a tremendous resource. If you have any technical behind-the-scenes questions about Blackboard, please go ahead in the chat and ask them away of Andres. All right. So let me go into our course. And let's take a look at, how do I create a learning module? A couple of things that we'll start with, and as you can see, we're starting with the announcements page, and there's that announcement that Jen put in with the image. A couple of things to make sure we have here is at the very top, notice that edit mode is on. So if you have this, or get into your course and edit mode is off, you'll notice that you don't have access to things like the add an item to the menu or anything like that. So sometimes if you're finding you can't find the buttons to add content, make sure edit mode is on. So click on that. It's a toggle back and forth. And when you do that, you'll see a lot of the different items that appear. Another thing just to make note of is you'll notice, say, for weekly and quizzes here that Jen put in here, there's an icon beside it, right where my mouse or my cursor point is here. That icon means that there's nothing in that particular content area. So if you see that, then if students were to look at this menu, they won't see weekly quizzes. Let's demo that. Click on Student Preview. And you'll notice that weekly quizzes is not there. And so Blackboard doesn't show to students content areas that have nothing in them. So if you see that icon, just be aware of that. Now, the other thing here I just want to point out is as I exit from Student Preview, and I highly recommend that whenever you put something into Blackboard, that you go through Student Preview so you can see exactly what the student sees. Student Preview will do that for you. So let me go and exit Student Preview. And I think this is related to one of the questions Sam was asking, is you want to create a student account in your own course so you can actually do exactly what a student does and see what happens. How you do that is make a student preview account, but then come down here, because the default here is to delete the preview user account. But if you keep the preview user data, you keep yourself as a student in your own course. So I'm going to do that, and I'll keep the user data and click Continue. And what you'll notice, if you ever want to check things out, is that you will be added to your roster of your course as in my case, it'll say Kevin Pitts preview user, and then I can test everything as that preview user, just like I can, just like being a student in your own course. Another thing that's recommended. Okay, let's go into weekly modules now. Okay, and I will, now you can see that we've got these folder items, so I'm going to create a learning module instead of a folder structure, let's say. So how do we do that? Again, edit mode on. I'm going to go up to build content here, and in build content you will see that there is the learning module option there. So I'm going to go down and highlight it and then click on it to select it. Now, a lot of tools in Blackboard do require a two-step process. So what we're going to do is create a container, house all the stuff that we're going to put in the learning module. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm creating the actual name of the learning module. So I might call it week 1, and it might be place value of whole numbers and decimals. That's what week 1 is all about. And from a universal design for learning perspective, it's a good idea to label your names explicitly, have context within the name itself. Don't just call it week 1. Don't just call it place value of whole numbers. Put those together, because folks that might be using a screen reader, what a screen reader does is it pulls out the names, and students want to then click on the name. And so if it just said place value, a student wouldn't know, well, where was place value in the content? Was it week 1? Was it week 10? And if it just said week 1, the student would say, well, what was week 1 all about again? I'm not sure. So add meaningful names to your content stuff. Okay, all I'm going to do is I'm going to name it. I'm not going to worry about describing it. I could add in some extra items here, but one of the things is to avoid too much information. You want to be, a clean screen with enough white space and redundant information. Sometimes students get overwhelmed with too much information about this, but I could put in here something about, let's start here, something like that in the text. I won't do it right now, but just to know that you can do that. What about the options? Well, in a learning module, you have an option to enforce sequential viewing of the learning module. So in other words, make sure they do 1 before they do 2. In other words, they can't see item 2 until they've clicked on or gone through item 1. I say no to that. I always like it that students can go back and forth in terms of where they want to go. Sometimes they've gone through the module quickly, then they say, okay, I got an idea about it. Now I want to go back and go through it systematically. So I want them to have as much control as possible. But there may be instances where you really do want them to go in a sequential order, so that option is available for you. Open in a new window. I generally say no. You can say yes, but with learning modules, sometimes other than what Jen was talking about is links, absolutely make your links open in a new window. Everything else I tend to say no, just so that the navigation doesn't get too wonky. So I've got those options. Then you've got, do you want to permit users to view this content? For sure. You might, at the beginning, while you're building it, say no, just it's not ready yet for prime time. So you might say no, but don't forget, after you finish, go back and turn this back on to yes. You can track the number of views. I'm going to say no. Generally, unless it's something critical that you want to track, tracking does use up resources on the system. So unless you really, really need it, I say no. Do you want to date restrict when you can see stuff? You can. You can say, well, one will be available from September 14th to September 28th or whatever that is. But this is, of course, for students. I never restrict access to content for my students. They can go in at any time. And generally what happens, because we have so many international students in the program I'm teaching in at the moment, and because they're coming from all over the world, and it's the beginning of the semester, they come in, 2 weeks late, 3 weeks late sometimes. I want to make sure that they're able to go back and access that earlier content, etc. Okay, so the other thing is, do you want to show a table of contents to users? Yes, that's one of the advantages of using learning modules, an alternative hierarchy display that they can see. Now you have options about how the table of contents is viewed. You can use it as letters, mixed numbers, Roman numerals, that kind of thing. I just say none. It's pretty self-explanatory. Again, unless absolutely critical, I just say no, and then you'll see obviously what the table of contents looks like as we go along. And I'll go ahead and submit that container, and then you'll notice that it appears at the bottom. Now, I did hear a lot of beeping from folks in the chat, so I will hang on in a second. I'm just going to show you one more thing, and then I'll stop and pause for some questions. So I'm creating this new module. So what I can do is the most recent one, week 1, it should probably go at the top. So I'm going to click and drag it up to the very top. So it'll just be at the top, make it easier for us to view. Jen, any questions?
Sorry, we were chatting with Andreas and I were chatting with Esther, and I misunderstood the question, so Andreas corrected me. But there was a question from Sam,
okay,
who talked about Blackboard access from outside Canada.
Yeah.
Do we know? Are there any known issues with that?
As long as the accounts are registered with in Seneca, then they should have access. And I haven't seen anybody who hasn't had access. I've had students from Philippines, India, China, Iran. Here's an interesting one. I had a couple of students from Iran. And so be aware that one of the issues we came into is that some of the content that we wanted them to view was on a server in the States, and Iran, in some cases, doesn't have, there's the embargo for some of those nations that they can't access the content. So there's an interesting little issue. You have to find alternative sources for some of those students.
That's correct.
Kevin, one issue about access from outside Canada. Apart from Blackboard, is there an issue with VP, student VP? My students are getting a lot of software from my apps and all those things. Some of them need student VPN. Say outside Canada, I said, okay, because a couple of requests came from students. I sent it to my chairperson. Can I enroll them or kick them out? So any other issues for students living in Philippines or India, China, getting access to the course? Do you think
So,
any issues?
Andrews, go ahead.
I know that well, when it comes to Blackboard, just the URL is accessible worldwide. We don't limit any access from any source. We do know a few situations and a few examples where they do need my apps. I don't have exact details, Sam. Unfortunately, for that, you'll have to create a ticket. I know that ITS was working for some solutions specifically for certain access. I can't give you details because I don't have them, but I know they created some sort of proxy level access so that we can work around some of those firewall problems that are in countries like China. Now, can they access my apps in situations where they don't have direct access to certain URLs or certain softwares? I can't say for sure, but I know that we did do some work in the ITS area to sort of leverage that access. So your best bet is contact the service desk, and from there they can follow up with information. If you don't get an answer, let me know. I'll try to reach out through my site to get you some details. But I know that we did do some work for that. Specifically for Blackboard and Learn, it's accessed worldwide, and so far we have not heard of any problems. And mention is usually with accessing sites or content that is sort of sitting outside of Blackboard that is the problem.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
And Judy mentioned that she turns off her video to keep the connection stable. So I'm guessing she's talking about Collaborate Ultra, and I think that's a good practice. I know I typically do that too. I deselect video in the settings so that all students can share audio but not video, and I find that makes it easier for all the other students too and their connectivity wherever they may be. That's probably a good practice unless you absolutely need the video.
And I agree with that. Video, only use it when you sort of want to introduce yourself, say hello, but when you're presenting, like in this case with Kevin, it's better just to focus on the software or the browser that you're using and remove the video. It will help also to sort of improve your connection and sort of help the students hear or follow along the presentation.
But the first day of class, I want to see the face of all my students. The class strength is 90. I want to see their face. Can I turn on the video?
That would be a huge strain on our system. Collaborate only shows 4 videos at once anyway. So on the main screen, you do get the class list of images on your in your faculty center as the roster. You can see the picture list, class lists there through i3. But maybe you know, might find other ways. Maybe just you know, as you're introducing everybody, if they want to see each other, you might want to just do it a couple at a time or something like that, so it's not to overburden the system. Andres, any other suggestions?
Well, one thing I was going to mention too is you could ask them to upload a profile photo of themselves. So just under the settings, so the little wheel under the purple menu there, you can upload a photo of yourself so that when you appear on screen, when your name appears on screen, an actual photo appears. I know it's not the same as video, but that's one option.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Jen, at the moment? Or
nope, I think we're good for now.
okay. So just to reiterate as well that all I've done so far is just created this container. There's nothing in it. You can think of this like it's another folder at the moment, just that we need to add content to. So let me click on it just to go into it, okay, as an instructor. And now I get the option to build my content. I get the same kind of content area tab items along the top, but you'll notice that I'm starting with a table of contents on the left as well, so I can build that as I go. Now, so what should we add to our folder? Let me just show you something quickly here, and I'm just going to minimize this, and you know, it'll come up in a second. Oh, there it goes. Let me see if you can see this. There we go. Jen, can you see the lesson plan block there?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Perfect. So you might be asking yourself, how should I organize my learning modules? Or even, you know, you can use the same idea for folder-based content as well. Well, generally for online environments, this is a good idea. The first column here is our overview and outcomes, so that you always want to give students a little introduction and then tell them about the learning outcomes that will be covered in the learning module that week. So that's that. I've just got an icon representing that. The next column along here then is, well, what do you want the students to listen to perhaps? What do you want them to read? What do you want them to watch? So what we're using here is kind of a whole bunch of media, multiple ways of representing content and presenting it to students in written form, in audio form, and in a visual format, so that they can start to, you know, work towards those outcomes. The next column over then is, well, what do you want the students to do? You know, the hands-on activities. Is something that they can do to practice what they've learned. You know, that might be an activity that they do, might be posting to a discussion board, it might be working in a group as they're looking through practicing the content. Then we've got assessment. So the fourth column over is, well, how are you going to test that they have achieved those learning outcomes that you set out in the beginning? So you could have an online quiz, you could have an assignment or something like that that they need to do, kind of on a maybe more formative type things on a weekly basis, but you might then include some summative tasks as you know as weeks go by. Then the next column over here is maybe resources. Are there additional resources? I know Jen was showing there's a project management website, or there's some other things that they might come handy for them. So you could have a resources item in there. And at the end, as we recommend, there's a checklist for students to know, did they do what they were supposed to do, or what? Because a lot of students in online environments really want to know, what do you want me to do? When do you want me to do it? How do you want me to do it? Have I covered all the stuff? So that checklist at the end of each of a module really helps them to say, okay, I did that, I didn't forget anything, or I didn't miss an item or something like that, so that they can go back and if they miss something and look at it. So that's a suggested lesson planning block. You might have your own way of doing things, but that just gives you kind of an idea about how to plan for your learning module. So let's follow the first couple. I won't do the whole module. I'll just go back in here and I will just enter a couple of items. So here we are. So the first thing I want to do then is build that introduction and outcomes. And I'm going to use the item that Jen showed you. I use this tool all the time. I find it really handy, really versatile. And so I'm just going to stick with that throughout, and just makes it easier for me in terms of, because I know it quite well. So let me just click on item. And like anything in Blackboard, when you create something, it gives you a web form. You fill out the web form, and then you go ahead and submit. So again, anything with an orange asterisk beside it is something you have to put in here. And again, naming is important. So I'll say week 1, and this will be our place value. Module. I can call it learning module, something like that. Again, making sure that its context is there for students, that they can get the gist of what's going on here just by looking at the name. Oh, this one was place value learning module. Sorry, that wasn't even, I should say this is the overview and outcomes. Overview and outcomes. That's what we're starting with, right? Okay, so I'm ready to put in the overview and outcomes. So what I do is I create a kind of a document that walks through what I'm going to have based on that lesson plan. So here you can see I've got here's my overview and outcomes. I've just written the text in the simple document. And you know, a lot of folks follow a lesson planning guide, and there's stuff available, lesson planning guides out there, and we have some in the teaching and learning area as well, that you can just, like a Word document, you just start typing in your sections. So here's my first overview and outcomes. So I'm just going to copy that right out of my document and paste it into this text box right here. So what do I include? Well, first off, this is what I like to do. I like to highlight the whole thing. I always find 12-point font a little bit restrictive. My eyes are getting old, so I want to bump it up to 14 point. I always like going to 14 point just because it makes it a little bit easier to read. And what I've got here is I've got something that says, welcome to the wonderful world of whole numbers and decimals, and just a little introduction about why this is important or what we're going to be learning. And a couple of tips there. I'm using invitational language just to have them, you know, I want inviting students to come and participate in this as they're going through. Next, I've got, well, our outcomes are really important. By the end of this module, you'll be able to. And so I've got 3 specific outcomes, and I'm going to go up to the top here, and I'm going to click on the bulleted list. So let's make it a bulleted list instead of just make it easier for students to get those. The other thing I'm going to put in here is I'm going to let them know about, if they haven't ever used a learning module, just, use the arrow keys or the table of contents to navigate through the items in this unit. As I demoed at the beginning, as you saw how a learning module looks for students, just let them know how they're going to navigate. And then the last part I've got here is, I think, a really critical part, especially in the online environment, is that what are the expectations of time? You can expect to spend 2 hours reviewing the material and then another 3 hours completing the activities in this unit and practicing concepts, just so that they have that kind of context in terms of how much time is this going to take me, and they can plan their time accordingly. Another thing I like to do, and Jen showed you a little bit about this too, is I like to add visuals to the pages so that students get a sense over time about what page they're on, and they can easily identify that. And I do that through using icons. And I'll show you here. This pops up here. I've got some icons that are freely available on the Teaching and Learning site, and they're branded Seneca color icons. And so I have one here called Overview, and I'm just going to use that icon right there to represent the overview and outcomes in each module. So I click on it, like so. Alrighty, hang on one second. I'm going to come to the going back to my text box. I've got the the third one over on the third row is the image insert icon. I click on it. It pops up. Then I browse my computer. And come on, computer. It's working. And I go and find where this, I've downloaded them into a certain spot on my desktop. Give it a second. And I'll scroll down. It's in the webinars folder here. And I've got some images. And here's here's all the icons. So here it is, my overview icon. I'm going to open it up. And then I'm going to give it a description. Now, when you add images to Blackboard, it does force you to add a description, which is good. It's part of AODA guidelines. So I'm going to call it image of a man, or not a man, image of a person looking through a spyglass, something like that. And it could also say that it's representing overview and outcome, something like that. You could go and look at the appearance as well if you don't want to make it too big. I've already set the dimensions just to be 70 by 70, so I don't have to worry about it here, but I could double check to make sure they're not too big. And then when I'm ready, I just simply insert. And there it is. There's my opening page of my learning module. Now let's take a look at some of the options down here. Again, it's just like an item. You could attach files to it if you wanted to. I'm going to permit the users to view. I'm not going to worry about tracking. I'm not going to worry about date restrictions. I want students to see it all the time, and I'm just going to submit. And there I've started putting my module together. And you'll notice that in the table of contents, it's automatically generating the title of that first item from there. I know there was some more beeping in the chat area. Jen, is there some questions that need immediate attention?
Kevin, Sam, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
Okay. You're showing in Collaborate, multiple applications pop up on the screen from the Chrome browser, from PowerPoint, all those things. Is there a special setting within Collaborate to allow this type of multiple things to show up for my student? Because I'm using for my lab for Collaborate multiple applications I want to show them.
Yeah, so and we'll cover this in session 3, Sam. Planning for your session is opening up all of the applications you want to use before the session starts. Okay. And then when I share the application, I'm sharing my entire screen. And that way I can bump through all the different applications that I currently have open. And I don't have to close one and open another one, that sort of thing. So
sharing the screen is critical.
Yeah, but you do get to see your entire screen, so you got to be careful about what you have open and those kinds of things. And we'll talk about this in session 3.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There was a question on how to add a PowerPoint document, and can you do a voiceover within a PowerPoint document?
Sure, you could add, and as I go through items here, I could have just added, just like you did, Jen, as I build content, I could create an item or just a file even, and say, okay, go and read this particular file, I could certainly do that. Maybe I'll show that in again about how you can do that. Now, adding voice to PowerPoint, you do that before you add it to the module. You do the narrated PowerPoint, and we have some videos on a teaching and learning site about how to do that, how to add.
And I can send out those instructions with today's recording as well. I'll just send out a series of additional resources. So the how to add voice to a PowerPoint, I can send that.
Great. So what I'll do here is I'll just maybe do one more item just so you can see how you would, go through the flow of doing this, because I don't want to waste time adding the entire module in there, but just to show that you can see and get a sense of what's going on. So again, I like to use item. And so let's say the next thing on my module is I want them to go and now start to watch a video, something like that. So, I've got, I'll call it week 1, place value, and we'll call it video. And I got to remember here. So again, I'm following that kind of lesson plan block, and I'm saying, well, I think they need to look at some content now. So what is the content? So I've already sourced this or created it, and I've got some text. I've got that link that I got from YouTube, and I've got the embed code that I picked up, and Jen showed you how to find all those things before. So I'm just I have them listed here. I'm gonna grab the text, Control C, close that down, pop it in here. Then I'm gonna come in here now. What I want to do is, again, I want to bump it up to 14 point. I like 14 point. Then I want to say, okay, let's add that direct link. So I'll put in here, direct link to video, week 1 value. In here, I'll just highlight. I should probably I usually, good rule to follow actually is to add all your text in first and then bump it up to 14 point, because then the HTML code doesn't get so wonky. But this will work as well. So what I'm going to do is then make that a link. So I've pulled the link out here. It's right there. I know which one it is. Control C that, which is copy, or right click copy, highlight the entire thing, go up to the menu, insert edit link icon, and I'm going to paste that in there. And again, open this in a new window. That's critical for videos. And then I'll just insert that. So I've got a direct link to that. Then I'll put in the embed code. Now, a couple of things before I put in that I just want to point out is naming. So I did say direct link to what it was. I didn't just put click here, for example, for the direct link. Don't stay away from things like click here's, because it doesn't mean anything. This context is missing. So name, spend some time thinking about what name you want to have to your links. The next thing is, what am I saying here? So I'm giving them again, invitationally saying, inviting them to go and look at what were the videos about. And the other thing is I give them instructions. I don't just say watch the following video. What I'm saying is, as you watch this video, pay particular attention to the names assigned to each numerical digit and specific place value assigned. So I want them to be active watchers of the content, not passive watchers. So I'm giving them some hints of what to look for as they're watching. I think that's a really important point when you're using adding videos, those types of things. Okay, now I also want to embed it so it's there for students to watch, and they don't have to go out anywhere if they need be. So I come back here and I say, oh, here's the embed code that I found on YouTube, and Jen showed you can right click and just get that information on YouTube, or use the share option, and that usually generates the embed code. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to have to go up to HTML here. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the end. I'm not going to worry about all the stuff that's generated there by Blackboard, and just paste that in a fresh new line at the bottom, and I should be fine if I do that and update, and it gives me this yellow box that when I submit, it will be there. Oh, forgot one thing. I got to add my little icon. So just to give a kind of a visual indicator for students that they're in a watching situation. So I'm going to the very top. I'm going to click on my insert image, browse my computer again, and I've got an icon for video. I think this one right here. video watch. And then I'm going to have to give it an image description to meet AODA guidelines. So this is an icon showing the play button for a video, something like that. Insert that. Okay, I think I'm ready. I'm just taking a quick look at it. Some things you might want to do too, and don't use it a lot, but you know, say this is really critical. You know, it's a numerical digit. You might want to bold that a little and say, okay, that's really important. Just don't use bold a lot. Just if it's really important what you want them to focus on, you can say, you know, that's the important part right there. Just really get that. Again, coming down to the options here, permit users, track. Nope, I'll just submit that. And as you can see, I've got 2 items now on my table of contents. Here's the first one. Here's the second one with the embedded video as they're going through. Now, if I wanted a file, I could come back in here. Remember, somebody was asking about, could I add a PowerPoint? Maybe I also want to say in here, you know what? I'm going to attach to this a PowerPoint slide. So maybe there's a PowerPoint slide up here. Or maybe, you know what? It's this lesson plan block file that they should look at. Take a look. Lesson plan block. Could be a PowerPoint, could be mock image, just as another resource that they might want to look at in there. And I'll just submit that. Okay, so now down here, they do have this, you know, you could have the PowerPoint image there that they could do and then go through here. And you might want to say in the text here, go back, you know, click on the attached file above and review that, you know, that kind of thing. You could certainly do that. Okay, so this is the process. So you just go into my next column over, which I might want to put some hands-on activities, then an assessment maybe, and then a little summary about what's going on. Again, just looking at time, you know, you just continue the same process. Same process is the same. You'll notice that the table of contents is here. Couple of things about table of contents and look at it from a student point of view. By the way, this is one area where what you see is different from what students see. So you see it as a long list of items, but what students see is different. So let's go into the student preview. Okay, and then I come down to the weekly modules and I go back and look at, here's my place value of whole numbers and decimals. I click on it. And this is what student sees now. They see the navigation, page 1 of 2, because I only had 2 items in there, right? I could navigate this way, and I can see the stuff and the video, and there's the image. And I can also go via the table of contents. And I didn't force sequential viewing, so all of these links are active. They can navigate any way they want to. They can also control this. They can minimize the table of contents, get rid of it altogether, bring it back, or move it to the bottom. That's what those icons mean. Sometimes moving it to the bottom helps with things like phones or tablets when they've got limited screen real estate, so they can have some control over that. Or I'll just bring it back over, not on the bottom, back over to the side. Usually for laptops and things like that, it's best to have the table of contents on the side. So that's what a student sees, and it seems to be working fine in terms of doing what I want to do. You'd always want to test that the videos are working, so I click on it just to make sure it's generating the video. I want to check the link to make sure that it works as we go along, so I might click that so that it opens in a new window, things like that. My computer is really slow today, but believe me, it is actually working. I can see it in the background coming in there, but I've just tested everything to make sure everything's working. Okay. So everything's going along. So that's how you would, I'll just turn that off. There we go. That's how you would start to build the lesson modules. And if I come back over to, I'll just close that off for now. And so if I come back over to this other course just to bring it back for you to look at the weekly content, I'll scroll down here and just, so here's the mod. So again, just whilst I'm doing, let me go back, sorry. I'm doing it too fast, I know. Okay, so here I did say click the link to access this week's learning module. I added that to the text box for this one. But then you can see here, here's all the units as they would have been put together for this particular module. Okay, so they're looking at that. They're practicing. Remember I talked about practicing. Then they've got a self-assessment here. Then they've got another video to watch. So you can chunk it this way, and then another hands-on activity and another assessment. And then they have to go then to the lessons and labs and work on those as homework, and then they've got the summary checklist at the end. And that's how it works. And so you build these over time. Now, if you've got 2 sections of the same course, you're thinking, oh, do I have to do this for every single section? And the great news is, no, you don't. What you can do is, once you've graded your module, if I'm going to exit preview, okay, like so. I'll just keep the user data, because I always like doing that. And if I scroll down to the bottom, yeah, I know it's going by quick here. Oh, that's my announcements. Back up here, weekly content. Scroll down to the bottom. So if I come over here with edit mode on, I've got this option here that I can click on it, and I can copy that. Okay, I can copy that learning module. So I click copy. I can decide, where do I want to put it? Well, I've already got it in this course. Well, let me move it to the other course. This one, perhaps. So I click on that one. Okay, and I say, well, where do you want to put it in that other course? And I'll say I want it to go in this area here, the course content area, or whatever you've decided to call it. And I just click submit, and it's copied over to that area. I won't do that now because I don't know where I was putting it, so I'll just cancel that for now. But that's how you could move it to another section, so you don't have to recreate these all the time. You just create one in one section, and that's a good rule to follow, is you get one section going where you want it, and then you just copy the stuff over to the other section, or do a batch copy or course copy or export, import, whatever you want to do. All right, that in a nutshell is all about learning modules. So let me pause. And Jen, any questions before we move on to wikis?
A couple of folks asked where to find the icons that you're referring to, and I'll also send out a link to those icons so that people can access them.
Perfect. It's on the teaching and learning site. And just quickly, if I can just show you here, hopefully this loads quickly. I think it's in Seneca content. Let's go to teach. It's in teach, and it's in course design. If we scroll down to the bottom, icons for your courses, click on that, and then you've got all these icons here that are available that you can download. Okay.
And then Esther also said, are we able to see which students have reviewed the modules?
You can track, turn on tracking of the learning modules. Remember, I showed that button that says track that you think, but all that does is just show whether they've clicked on it. It doesn't mean that they've actually spent any time in it. They've just tracked that item. And you can generate a report that says so-and-so actually went to this, at least clicked on these pages of the learning module. But it does mean turning statistics tracking on, and sometimes that uses up resources. So do you really ask yourself, do you really need that before you turn it on? But it is available to you. And
then Sam has his hand up.
Yeah, quick question. The table of contents popping up on the left-hand side, is there any icon between Learn Seneca and the model, the table of content coming up and going away? How to do that?
Well, the table of contents is generated automatically when you create a learning module. So you have no control over it. It just takes the name, whatever name you gave to each item or each content piece that you put into the module. It just takes that name and puts it in the list. You don't really have much control over that, but it's handy. It's a very handy thing that's automatically created, as are the arrow buttons for back and forth in the learning module. So it's a great way to organize content for your students. And it's particularly in things like in the online environment, students, as I mentioned, you don't want to waste time and energy on finding stuff. You want it to be easily navigable. Did I say that right? Yeah, in your Seneca course. And so they're concentrating on the content and learning the outcomes, not concentrating on how they get around.
Does it pop up on its own and vanishes? I don't see its concept on those.
It just is created automatically on its own. But students have some control over where they place the table of contents. You can actually say, I don't want a table of contents. Okay. And you have that option to say, don't make the table of contents, just give me the arrow, back and forth arrows. Okay. It's all in that when you create the learning module. So if I go back into, wrong one, here. All right, here we go. So when I create this weekly modules, when we created it, I can always go back. I'm going to exit student preview, keep myself in there. And then weekly modules over here, I got the chevron to click on that. I can edit this options that I picked, I could add that, you know, things to say the link to access the one learning modules. Oh, 14 point. Gotta go with 14 point. Okay, and then come down here, and when I say, where is it? Okay, content view, options, print user to view, track student, table of contents. Here we go. Do you want it? Say, no, I don't want it.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
okay.
so you
I
can
got
say,
it.
don't give me the table of contents. I'll just get the arrows. That kind of thing. I won't do that now.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin.
No problem. Okay. Any other questions, Jen?
No, I think we're good to move on to wikis.
Okay, so wikis. Let me go back again, and I know we've got about 15 minutes, so I'll get to it. I think that's enough time, and then we can make sure we have enough time at the end for questions. Okay, I'll go back to my course to show you how I use wikis. Now, there's lots of ways to use wikis, but the primary use that I'm doing it for is an opportunity for students to learn from one another. And so wikis are anybody in the course can create content and publish content within the confines of your course. So what I've got here is I've got tests and assignments, and one of my assignments that I'm using is a wiki. And so here it is. So what I ask students to do is I want them to generate their own final exam questions in the course based on the content that they've seen in the course in groups. So I've already created groups, and we'll cover groups next week. Create you know, what they think is a really good final exam question. So, and then what they do, so I click on it. Here's what a wiki looks like if you haven't seen one in Blackboard. I mean, this is Blackboard's version of what a wiki looks like and how it's built. I've got the instructions. So in your group, I've created a table of contents page in the wiki, and it's got all the groups listed. So how many groups we got in this? We got about 14 or 15 groups in this particular class, three people per group, and then they're going to get together, create this question, and post it for everybody to look at. And once it's posted, then what I want them to do is then go to 2 other groups and then give them feedback on their question. So it's not just the question, they have to post the question and the solution, and then other groups, as they publish theirs, go and comment on 2 other groups. So you can see it here, like group 1, they posted. Once they posted, I said, okay, group 14 and 15, go in and comment on group number 1. And I also provided a sample question here. So here's an example for students. This is kind of giving them a guide. So here's what a question might look like. So here's the question, okay? It's to do with the content in this course, okay? And then I've got them 4-parters. Go ahead and figure these things out. Then I want them to provide a solution and explanation. So they're publishing the solution and explanation in here. And then when they're done, I'd have folks comment. So they click the comment button at the bottom, and the students would go in and provide all these comments and add the comments to, you know, some feedback to them, what worked, what didn't, maybe some suggestions for improvement. Because this is an interim assignment, what they would do at the end is then create a video based on the comments for this particular question as kind of a study guide for the whole class to use a whole bunch of questions that might appear on the final. So that's what the wiki, so the design of the task then feeds into how the wiki is going to be presented. So I'm using wiki in this case as a way for students to share content, share learning, and I'm wanting to make sure that we encourage student-to-student interaction. There's 3 types of interaction, especially for online or in any course, and online specifically, where students are interacting with the content, they're interacting with the teacher, and they're interacting with their peers. So generally, we want to make sure we have all 3 types of interaction to a high degree to make for an effective online course. So I want to make sure they get the opportunity to interact with one another, and this is one way to do it, and I'm using the wiki tool. So how does this get built then in the course? So let's go and look at that now. So I'll close the demo of that, and let's go in and build this, okay? So I've got it here, and I'm going to use the assignments area here that we have, so that maybe this is our task. Again, notice the icon beside assignments means that right now there's nothing in assignments, so this will add, if I add this wiki into it, then this icon will disappear. So it's a content area in my assignments part, and we find wikis under tools. So if I look at tools, I can see if I go down here, I've got wikis right there. You can also, by the way, get access to wikis down in the control panel by looking at course tools and expanding, and you will see wikis listed at the bottom here as well. So that's another way to get access to it, but I'm just going to build it right in my assignments area. And go to tools and then click wikis. Now, just like learning modules, it's a two-step process. You have to create the container first, and then you start adding the pages. So the first thing is, well, there's no wikis yet, so let's create a new wiki. Okay, and I'm going to call it the assignment number 1 and give it some context, final exam questions. Something like that. So again, don't just call it assignment 1. What's the context for that particular assignment? Okay, I can give instructions. I'm not going to give instructions right yet, just for the sake of time. I can always come back and edit it. So I just want to just have the name, because that's the only thing I actually do need at the moment. Orange asterisk beside it. Do you want to make it available? Absolutely. Do I want to limit it? I could say assignment 1's due by week 6. Again, I tend to leave them open all the time because it's the end of the course. I want students to come back and use these questions as a study guide as well, if they prefer to look at the text rather than the video. And if I have time, I'll go back and show you how the students, once they created the video, then added the link to their video in their solution, excuse me, so that students could also watch that as well. Okay, now, wiki participation. This is critical. Student access. Is it closed to editing or open to editing? If you are creating a wiki as a content delivery mechanism, because there's another way to do, presenting content to students, then you're the one that's just adding the content, not the students. You might click close to editing. But for me, I want the student-to-student interaction. I definitely want them to edit the wiki, add stuff to it. So I've got it open to editing. Comments. If you don't want commenting, then you can close the comments. But I want them to comment. I mean, purpose is that they post stuff, students look at it, each other's stuff, and they comment on each other and provide feedback. One thing to be wary of here is make sure that you have those netiquette guidelines about what is appropriate commenting, what are the expectations around commenting, because that's really important. So I'm going to have those two open. Then I'm going to grade this. These can be graded directly in the inline grading, which is awesome, so that you can just go in and look at it and use the inline grading tools. So I'm going to say, yeah, let's grade it, and I'll give it, I don't know, maybe it's worth 10 points, something like that. And I can give it a due date. I can do all those kinds of things. Once I do this, it's a column in the gradebook is automatically created, all that kind of stuff. I can also add a rubric, and I know that we'll talk about rubrics next week. But what I did is I love rubrics. They're a great way to save time on grading. And I've already gone ahead and created a rubric and imported it, and we can show you how to do that next week. So I'm just going to go and select the rubric I put in there. There's my assignment 1 rubric. If you want to see it, I'll show it to you in a sec. I'll just submit it, so it's attaching the rubric. And now what it's telling me here, because I had 10 points for it, and when my rubric, the maximum grade I think is 6 points. So it's saying, what do you want to use, 10 points or the 6 points? So I'm just saying use whatever's in the rubric. So I'll go ahead and do that. I definitely want to show students the rubric. So I'm going to click right, but I don't know why they do this by default, that it's not shown to students, but yes, show the rubric so students get an idea of how they're going to be graded, that sort of thing. Here's what it looks like. So here's the rubric. Oops, sorry, that's the editing option. Sorry. Here's the view option. So it's just a simple rubric about your final exam question. Is it acceptable, not acceptable, or proficient? What's the solution like? How have you explained it? Have you formatted it properly? And did you provide comments to your other groups? It's just a simple rubric from there. All right. So then I'm coming down and I say, terrific, submit that.
Before you move on, Kevin, there was a question, can commenting be closed like partway through, or can you turn it off?
It's all or nothing at the moment, as far as I know. So either you turn on for the whole wiki or none at all. So it's one or the other.
Can you turn off commenting after a couple of weeks? You just go in and toggle it off?
I think you can, but I'm not sure what happens to the comments that are already there. Andres, do you know?
I haven't tried it yet. I mean, the option is there that you can disable it. I just not sure if the comments will stay there and you just can't create new ones.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think probably what happens, I have to test it, is that the comments that are there will just stay, and but nobody can add any new ones. So something like that. But we can test it and see what happens.
And
Good
Sam
question.
had his hand up.
A quick question. We gave 10 marks for the posting, whoever is putting the question. Now, I don't want to do any marking. Can I keep the 10 marks as it is? Or more, anybody is putting the content, I give them 2 marks, 1 mark. Then later I can go and look into the details and change the grading. Is it possible?
Sure. Yeah, you can do that. You can say at the moment, I'm just going to mark it whether you've done it or not. And then later on, I'll go in and give you more feedback. It's up to, however you want to do it. It's up to you. So generally the rubric would be, do it all at once kind of deal. But you could certainly create one column that says you did it. Okay, you get a mark, and then another column that you can say provide more detailed feedback and a more detailed mark later on.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
And just a note, we're at about 5 minutes to go.
Sure. So I'll finish off quickly here, and then we'll give some folks some ideas. So I've got the wiki created. I'm just going to say, now I know what it's called, the Assignment 1 Wiki. I'm going to go next. Okay, so what you need to do once you're in the wiki, okay, so again, it's just making it available, just double checking these options. I'm submitting that. So there, we've got the Assignment 1 Wiki. There's the wiki icon for it. Now it's just the container. What we have to do is populate the container. So I'm going to go click on it to go into it. And then it's going to say, well, I got to create a page, right? Wikis are just a series of pages that are linked together. So I'm going to use a book metaphor. So my first page is going to be a table of contents because it also follows the same thing as the learning modules. Okay, so that's the name of the page. I'm going to say in here, select your group below, group link below, and enter and submit your question. Okay, something like that. I'll spend some more time on the direct wording for this to make sense. Your final exam question. Okay, and then what I do now, notice right now it's not happening here. So I want to make a list of the groups, and so I'll say, okay, group 1, and then group 2. Okay, so like so on, however many groups you've got in there, so they can be. I'll make these links in a second. Now I'm just going to submit that for now. So it's just and this is one thing with wiki pages, make sure you do submit. It's not very exciting. It just says table of contents and just got a couple of groups that are actually not links yet. What I need to do then is create the pages for the groups to add their stuff to. I don't want them to add it to the table of contents page. I want them to add it to their own group page. So I go back and create additional wiki page. Now, sometimes with this new theme, it's kind of hard to see that these are actual buttons up here. So just mouse over them and they'll distinguish themselves as buttons. So create a wiki page and then just say, okay, I want group 1, the wiki page. All I want is the name. They're going to fill in the solution to content here. It's not me. They're going to do it. So I just just make the page for them. You'll notice over here, I've got a page created in the wiki details. I just want to make sure I got another page in there called group 2 and submit that. And now I've got group 2, group 1. Okay, so let me go back to the table of contents, the home page. That's what that icon right there represents. I want to make sure that they can easily link to the pages they have here. So I just go back and edit the wiki content. I come in here and then I just highlight group 1. Oops, here we go, group 1. Now there's a special icon that appears in the wiki toolbar that you don't get anywhere else. It's the one at the very end on the 3rd row called link to wiki content. And if I click that, it just says, where do you want that link to go to? Which page? And right now it's going to go to the group 1 page. There it is. And now it makes it a link. So group 2, where do I want it to go to? I want it to go to the group 2 page. And submit that. So now I've got actual links in the table of contents. I'll submit that. And now, as you can see, students will see this, select their group, click it there, and it goes to the group 1. And if they want to add their question, they edit the wiki content, and they go ahead and they start adding all their stuff in there. And then they would submit their response. And once responses are submitted, I won't do it now, then they can go and comment on the certain responses. And now I want to make sure I test it as a student. So I click on Enter Student Preview. Let's see what happens. I go to Assignments. There's my assignment number 1. And like I said, let's say I'm in group 1. So I go, oh, I got to click group 1 and start adding my stuff. I edit the wiki content. I get my stuff here and I say, okay, here's my awesome question. That's the best final exam question ever written, blah, 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 based on that rubric I was looking at, and I'll submit that like so. Okay, and so there's group 1's question, and of course then group 2 might want to go in and comment on how wonderful that gibberish is, that sort of thing. So let me pause there. It's 2 minutes to noon. If anybody's interested in what does it look like from a wiki marking perspective, I'm happy to stick around for 2 more minutes if you want to see that. But right now I know some folks have got other plans, got other meetings to go to. So let's just stop for 2 minutes to ask some questions and wrap up this, and then we can do that for a couple more minutes if you want to, for those that want to stick around. Jen, any questions?
So the questions about groups, there was 2 questions. Can you limit access to the group pages to only members of that group? And then another one, can you create the group members now? So yeah. I think it's sort of going from the groups tool side of things.
Yeah. Yes, and so we'll talk about groups there. And so the 2 questions you asked are both are doable. So generally what you would probably do here is create the groups first. And if you only want the groups to see their own stuff, not with the other groups as a starter, you can do that. You can actually add wikis to a group. You can add the wiki tool just to a group. So each group gets their own wiki tool to use. And that's another great use of wikis, by the way, is for group projects, where you assign the wiki tool to a group and you have them document all of their milestones, their plan, their project plans in the wiki. And that way you can see it timestamps every edition, so you'll know when was stuff posted, how much was posted, who posted it, how much they posted, and so it's a good way to manage group marking, if you like, in Blackboard.
Are we doing groups next week? I think we are, aren't we?
I think it is.
Yeah. And then Frank he said he wants the 2-minute marking tips for wikis. So I guess we can say goodbye to whoever doesn't want to stick around for the marking tips for wikis. And we will send out the recordings, all the links for the resources we talked about today. And we'll meet back in this same room next Wednesday. I'll send out a reminder on Tuesday with the link to the room, just in case it's lost in your email. And yeah, have a great week, everybody. And send us emails and questions that way if you'd like to.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so by all means, if you need to go, away you go, and thanks for joining us. If you want to stick around, I'll start that now, and it'll take me 2 minutes. And just as for Frank. Okay, so I'm going to go and I'm going to exit preview here because I was in a student just testing it. And again, I'm just testing this wiki design as a student in my own course, which is a great idea. So then I come back, and now I want to see I've got some submissions. How do I grade this? So I come down here to my grade center down here. Okay, by the way, if I look at my full grade center, you'll notice that it's added at the end the assignment, final exam question. Oh, and I've got an icon that says somebody submitted. This Kevin Pitts person submitted. So I can go and grade that. All right, so let's do that. So I can just go back to Grade Center, look at needs grading. This is probably the easiest way to do it. You look at needs grading, and then it says the category is a wiki, and it's the final exam questions, and this person submitted. So I'll click on the person's name. Okay, and here we go. I can see the grading options. So I can look at this. I can compare to version 1. So let's look at this. Let's look at what the submission is. I click on it, and here's that awesome question right there that they submitted. I can say, oh, okay, that was interesting. How does it compare to the first version that they put in? Well, anything highlighted in green means what's been added since the last version. So the first version just had the name group 1, and then somebody added all this wonderful prose here. So I say, okay, so they've done some work. Then, a wonderful 18 words of modified. So then I want to grade it. Okay, so how do I want to grade it? Well, I created a rubric. So here's the grade rubric. So I click on it, and I can show it either as a list of items here or as in its rubric form, like so. Okay, so I can look at this and say, okay, was the final exam, does it not incorporate any concepts, or it's only 1 or 2, or a lot of them? Well, maybe it didn't incorporate too many. I'm just going to give them this. You know what? I'll give them half of the grades available, 1 point out of 2. Solution. No, they didn't do the solution, so they get 0 on that one. Explanation, okay, maybe they did a really fantastic explanation. I'll give them all points on that. And then format, yeah, it's all right, you know what I mean. And comments, did they comment? They haven't commented yet, or they only did one comment, so maybe I'll put it here. Okay, and then I can either then come down and give them some feedback, some direct feedback. Please resubmit or something like that. If you've allowed multiple submissions. So I could save that, and then it automatically creates the score here. It's 4.5 out of 10. Now you can see the options that were selected in my table. And then I could also come down and give them, you know, here's the feedback, please resubmit. I could give them more feedback. I'm just going to save that for now. And then I've got an additional feedback that I could do. So I could come in here and I say, okay, interesting question, solution is incomplete. Please look at it again, or something like that. And then you could go and do this, blah, 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 and give them a bit more feedback. You could also, in here, you can add, you know, if you have insert a file, if you've got files that you use for grading, that sort of thing. You could also, let me just make sure this works. Grading notes, do I want to do, no, it's not there. I can't remember. Where is the voice grading option? I can't remember where that is.
When you click on, if you go into the little A.
Yes, okay. In here, feedback to learner, you can go in here to these icon here and say, do a voice recording, you know, and say whatever you want. And okay, allow, ready to record. And I click on recording. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Hi, group 1. Thank you for submitting your question. Take a look at the feedback and comments in there. Something to concentrate on is your solution is incomplete. Please put a more robust explanation so others get the gist of what the question is asking and how it relates to the concepts in Math 149, blah, 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 that kind of thing, okay? And I'm gonna save and exit. Okay, I'm gonna insert that recording in there and submit that so students can then also get an audio feedback about what they were doing in there and think about submitting. And then when I'm all done, I go ahead and click submit, and that gets done, and it appears in, here we go. So here's Kevin, there's his mark, and he can go now. As Kevin, what does Kevin see? Okay, click on entering student preview. They go to my grades. Okay, there's the assignment. View the rubric. Okay, they could have done this before. There's the scoring that was done in the rubric for them. Okay, and then they can go to the feedback here. They can listen to the recording that I just did, and here's some of the additional feedback for them. And there you go. There's that quick, oh, that was 6 minutes. Sorry about that.
When Frank asked if the grade goes to all the group members, not just to the one student.
Oh, yeah, in this case, it's just to the one student. What I'd have to do is say who's in group 1 and then just duplicate that for all the other students. If I was doing it properly, where I created the group first and then added that, I have the option to make it a group recording where everybody gets the same feedback. Just have this feedback once. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes sense to me. Any final questions, or can you copy the oral feedback?
You know what? Maybe what you could do is download that file. Okay, and then what you do is when you download the file, when I get back into, let me just exit here, just to show you. Okay, so if I download that recording, go back into Full Grade Center here. There's nobody in needs grading, so I have to do it through Full Grade Center. So let's just say I'm gonna view the grade details there, and I'm gonna go in here and grade the user activity again. Okay. So here's the recording. I think I can just download that recording, and then next group I could just use this attach insert file option and then add that file back in to them. If it's the same, you know, obviously you want to have unique feedback for every group, but if it's similar stuff or maybe it's the same, you could then insert it that way. I mean, you don't have to use the tool here to insert the audio feedback, you could just use your own computer's audio recorder and do the same thing and just insert the file using the insert file option here. Maybe that would be another option for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you give the same feedback over and over again, I guess you could pre-record a couple of different ones.
Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Howard, I see you're still in the session. I know you're having some issues with accessing Blackboard. If I could ask you to stay in the session, just so I can help you troubleshoot that. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing and thanks everybody. Sorry, Jen, go ahead.
I'm just going to stop the recording now.